on over here. That's fine. You don't sit down there on the end.
She's down and then she moved.
Good morning. Thanks everybody for coming here. I want to thank our City Council President, Cornelius Calhoun, for being here with us as well. Councilors Lane Riley as well as Julie Beard. We know that there were others that could not make it due to their full-time commitments and both work and personal. But we're here to sign an ordinance that we think is very important. It's one that's key to helping us make this city safer. We will be the first in Alabama to have signed it, and we're, again, just very glad that our city council voted to pass it. You know, over the last several years, it's been our top priority to make this city safer and to look at various ways to do that, whether it was investing in technology, investing in body-worn body cams and new tasers, or just new police cruisers and weapons, but also investing in the training of our police officers across the board. Our goal has been to not only work with our police department, but also make sure that we work with our citizens and our residents here through our Parks and Recreation Department, as well as our Office of Violence Prevention and many other civic organizations. So the goal here has been to try to take a 360-degree approach to public safety. And while we've still got work to do in that area, we do know that we've seen a downward trend over the last couple of months that has us going in the right direction when it comes to homicides year over year and non-fatal shootings. Unfortunately, we are not at the level that we would want to be, but we'll take some of the things that we've got since Interim Chief Grayboys came on to help guide us in that effort. But along with that, it also takes looking at policies. It takes looking at different things that we can do as a government to help inform not only our community, but our police officers and others in our law enforcement partnership as well, whether that's the county or whether that's our state and federal partners. So as we've looked at various policies, we've seen everything proposed from strengthening background checks to enacting and implementing risk protection orders here in the city. We've looked at how to launch a public awareness campaign on the importance of safe firearm storage. We mentioned the investment and partnership in community violence intervention programs. We'll have more on that as we announce our budget once the City Council votes on that to finalize it in a couple of weeks. But we believe investing in evidence-based community violence intervention programs that address the root causes of violence also play a role as well. And we also want to make sure that when we think about the investment we've made in our community centers, tens of millions of dollars that our city council has helped us to appropriate is going towards not just being a place that's for young people to have fun and play games, but to make sure that we have a safe place for them to come and meet and to tell us things that are happening, to have a trusted messenger that they talk to, that they feel comfortable with, but also those adults. So the investment in our community centers is also part of the wraparound services and other initiatives that we're seeking to help us get to many of the challenges when it comes to the violence that we see in our city. That said, we also want our community to continue to report lost and stolen firearms. We want those gun owners to make sure they are letting our police department know if something has been taken out of a home, if it's been taken out of a car, of a truck, to let us know those things so we can try to not only track it down, but also enforce penalties that may be associated with that. So all of these are things that we have been looking at doing from a policy perspective. We've been working on with our staff, working with our police department, and really going back and forth with our city council. And so, when we think about where we ended up here, with this ordinance, I want to describe kind of what this ordinance will do and why we're here today. Because City Ordinance number 40-2024 is very important because, again, I think it shows not only this administration's commitment, but our city council's commitment to doing everything in our power to try to make sure that our city is safer and doing the things that we can do from the city to get guns off the street and empower our police officers more and make our city safer for everyone that lives, works, and plays within these limits. And so what the ordinance will do is it will require a valid photo identification card in order to carry a concealed firearm, either on one's person or in a vehicle in the city of Montgomery. When the ordinance is enforced, citizens will still have a chance to get their guns back within 30 days. If confiscated by presenting a valid ID, proof of ownership, and paying a fine. This gives law enforcement a tool to ensure proper identification is held in situations where individuals may be stopped and weapons are recognized. Again, we become the first city in the state to do this, and this is something that many of us have heard when it comes to the Alabama League of Municipalities, when it comes to the Big Ten Mayors Association, and talking amongst our peers even outside of the state in terms of what are some of the options, what are some of the things that we think we can do from the city level in passing ordinances that the state has not done. And we want to continue to work with our state partners, but the city is where we find that most of the complaints come to. And we've got to do the things that we can and then challenge our state partners to do the things they can, again, to help make our entire state safe, whether you be in a rural area or an urban area in our city. Finally, I'll say that this comes on the heels of, again, what I think are some promising trends. And we understand that if something has happened to you or a neighbor or a loved one, it doesn't matter what the data says. It doesn't matter what the trend says. But we have to look at it not only from an individual standpoint, which is very, very important, but we also have to look at it at a collective and a macro standpoint. And again, the trends show that right now, year over year, our homicide cases are down about 13%. We're also seeing about a 12% decrease in non-fatal shootings compared with this time last year. Those things are positive, as is our homicide closure rate, which is 10% higher than the national average, standing at about 62%, which shows, again, the commitment from our community to talk to our law enforcement partners, talk to our police, and to talk to our community leaders and let them know what's happening. We wouldn't have that without their participation and their collaboration in sharing information that we otherwise would not know. So all those things have led us to a point where U.S. News and World Report has named our city as the second safest city in the state of Alabama. That's significant. We want to be first, not only in Alabama, we want to be first in the country. But we believe that these areas are because of the collective work that we're doing from the mayor's office to the city council to our faith leaders, civic leaders, grassroots leaders, and so many others, even those that are in our schools, as we think about what has taken place just over in Georgia here in the last couple of days. So the signing of this ordinance is no small feat. It is something that has been discussed among the council. They may have some comments on that. But for us, we thought it was very, very important to pass, and we're glad that we're here to be able to sign it at this time. So with that said, I'll open up for any questions, and then we'll do the signing if you have any. Yes, sir.
Just kind of a practical aspect, how is this going to work? Is the police going to actually check for an ID every time you encounter somebody walking down the street or in a car? How are they going to make sure that they're actually licensed to have these firearms?
Chief Grayboys and I were speaking of that, and I'll allow him to. I'll ask him to answer that question because he can answer it in more technical terms than I can.
Yeah, one thing you should understand is that the requirement for an ID is not a license to carry the weapon. It's making sure that the person has a proper state ID. It's making sure that the person has an actual ID on them to identify themselves when they're in possession of a concealed weapon. Okay,
Yeah,
so,
driver's license as well.
yeah, so if you're stopping somebody in a car, they should have a driver's license anyway. So if I stop somebody, I'm going to be asking for that driver's license if I'm making a traffic stop for sure.
And,
And-
go ahead.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So that is something that you would ask for. If they don't have that driver's license, that's where they're not going to be in compliance. Or some type of valid ID. Of course, if they're driving, they need to have that license.
And I think it's important also to keep in mind that the permitless carry bill, took away an important tool for our law enforcement officers to take illegal handguns and to take illegal guns. When we have the type of people who are walking around with long guns in this city and in our state, that's a problem. That's a problem that we talk about as mayors from Madison and Huntsville all the way down to Mobile. It's impacting all of our cities in a way that our law enforcement officers have to deal with, and many of our cities have to bear the burden on. And so, some of these laws have been passed at the state level. The city is forced to pick up the pieces where that's concerned. The city is forced to then try to scramble to figure out how to support our residents who want to remain safe, not even from a shooting, just from the sound of gunshots, just from having to worry and be concerned about where that bullet may land. And what we hope this will do is maybe give us a little bit of movement back to being able to take some of those guns that should not be in certain people's hands off the streets right now. Chief, is there anything else I missed on that?
No, sir, I definitely agree with you on that. With the removal of the requirement to have a permit to carry a concealed weapon really is, for me personally, I know, but for also people who are at my level and who have done the same job I have done for quite a long time, it's very frustrating because the only people who are going to try to conceal weapons without that permit at the time in the past usually were people committing crimes. And that gave us a lever to actually remove a weapon from the streets before it could be used, let's say in a robbery, or before it could be used in a drive-by. And so the removal of that is very frustrating because that is a tool that was very useful to us.
Just one more follow-up. So it's a city ordinance. The legislature's been very against many kinds of better regulations. So, and given how centralized the state government is, they could, one signing of a bill, could literally eradicate this rule. So how are you going to protect this?
Yes, sir.
Hey, basically what we're doing, we're asking the need and the cries of our community. The state passed legislation that we have to react to from a state and govern the city of Montgomery. Our citizens are asking for these things. We're trying to get these laws to our officers to keep our city safe. So if the state comes out and say that we can't do it, we'll leave that up to the state, and then we'll ask the city to make that cry, or the citizens to make that cry to the state of Alabama. We represent the people of the city of Montgomery, and we're trying to do things to be proactive on Montgomery's side to keep our citizens safe.
Does this apply only to handguns? Or, people?
No, this will apply to any gun. Yes.
Well, the key thing is if you read the ordinance, it's concealed weapons. So, one thing, and I was thinking about this leading up here, is if you think about it, we require people to have a driver's license to vote or a valid photo ID to vote. I don't see why there'd be too much of a stretch to require a valid ID to carry a concealed weapon.
Well, so if somebody has, for instance, a hunting rifle in their vehicle and they get pulled over?
Well, is it concealed? And here's the thing, if they get pulled over and they're in their vehicle, they should have a driver's license on them if they're going to be on the roadway.
Can you kind of walk through how the mechanics of it would work? Like if you pulled over a car and had more than one person in there, and maybe the driver has to have a driver's license, obviously, but what if one of the other persons has a gun, or how is that going to work?
Well, we're still working out some of the mechanics of it. So, right now you're getting the front end, you're getting the where we're going and what we're trying to do. So some of the mechanics are going to be worked out.
And let me say this. I think it's important, as our city council president, President Calhoun mentioned, we're responding, and we've been hearing from our residents about, their safety in all parts of the city. And in particular, whether it's, they're hearing gunshots or obviously something that may have taken place, in their community, in their neighborhood. We have not received the type of proactive collaboration from our state legislators to say, hey, we know what's happening in cities across the state. We know what's happening in communities across the state. What are some of you all's thoughts? So this is our approach. This is our initiative. We welcome all partners and we welcome all ideas that anyone from across the aisle may have or anyone from any other part of the state may have. But we have to respond to the challenges of our city, and we have to think about things not just from a way of being purposeful and practical, but what things can we put into policy, and then what things can we make sure that we're doing to make it a little tougher on the bad guys, because I think that that pendulum shifted in some ways in their favor, and how can we make some of our policies, some of our ordinances tougher on them to do bad things. And we have to make sure that we're strengthening everything from the ordinances to the fines to the penalties where all these areas may be concerned, in particular around gun violence. It is just egregious how much gun violence impacts so many people in our city and in our community each and every day. And this is just one step. I want to be very clear. This is not the final step. This is not a silver bullet solution. This is one step of many that we'll be taking to make sure that we kind of change the environment and we change the atmosphere in the city of Montgomery in ways that we can as a city governing body.
After signing, when's it going to be implemented?
Mr. President?
After signing, it actually goes into law 7 days after the mayor signs it. So we wanted to go ahead and get this ordinance going on out in the community, letting people know and being aware. This press conference makes it aware. This is something that we're doing in the city of Montgomery to answer the calls from our citizens. And it's kind of unfortunate as a legislator that represents the city of Montgomery, represent people within the city that cries out about some needs and some of the concerns that they have, and we're handcuffed from a state law that governs the city of Montgomery. We don't have home rule here, so we can basically kind of go. But our citizens are crying out, packing City Hall out, asking for some change. What do you do? What can we do? And this is one of the ordinances that we came up with that we're trying to do something in response to their calls and their cry out to the citizens in the city council.
Hold on.
As a prohibited person introduced in an effective way to flag people who are exposed to hazardous to carry flags.
That database, which has been implemented, is only as good as the data that's put into it. It does help, but a lot of it, the quality of information is going to depend on the different jurisdictions and whether or not those jurisdictions are following the entry requirements and doing what they need to do. One of the things that was very advantageous to the old permit requirement was that you could literally, on its face, determine if somebody was in violation of it and immediately remove any type of gun that might be utilized in an improper manner or in a manner that could be dangerous to the community around it. That's one of the reasons why I said that the removal of that tool from our toolbox was very detrimental to public safety, in my opinion, because we literally were able to stop things before they happened. One of the things about law enforcement is you want to have your boots on the ground, you want your officers to be proactive, but at the same time, those officers need the tools that allow them to do some of the things that respond to the cries of the community. When you're dealing with an environment of let's say a town or a city, within those borders, people are in closer proximity to each other. That means that when weapons are easily obtainable and somebody shoots a weapon in anger or carelessness, that bullet's going to go through somebody's window. That bullet's going to go through somebody's ceiling or roof. It's not the same thing as a gun going off, let's say, in the country far away from everything. People are closer together, so it's more likely that somebody's property or person or family member could get hit. So we got to do everything we can to try to respond to these issues. And that means that when you have a situation of gunshots going off frequently and people having close proximity to weapons and having close proximity to things like alcohol, people are emotional. They, sometimes do things when they have that close proximity to the weapon. But those actions that people take when they shoot the gun or something along those lines literally is going to affect their neighbors and the people around them. So I just want to say that I support this and I'm going to do everything I can to work with it.
All right. Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Just going back to what you were saying, so kind of what's the practical impact? Is it you check for, if they have a concealed weapon and they have an ID, does it stop there? Is there any way to stop them whether or not they're supposed to have it at all?
Well, yeah, that's what she was just asking me about. I think you were asking me if there's a way to find out if the person's supposed to have the weapon, correct?
Right, or, because if they just have the ID and they show the ID, then that's
Well, yeah, but
not the interaction.
no, it doesn't.
No, that's a
Because
proof
the thing
ownership.
about it is that you still check the person against the prohibited persons database. You still are going to check that person to see if they have any type of warrants for their arrest. Also, here's the key thing too: is that person acting in a manner that's dangerous that would require you to remove that firearm from them from the way they're acting, or are they acting in an illegal manner that will require you to make an arrest? Those are all aspects to your encounter with the individual.
Great.
I
Yes.
think this is kind of common sense, but legally, what is the definition of a concealed weapon?
A concealed weapon, excuse me? Okay, yeah. A concealed weapon is a weapon that you are specifically attempting to conceal. Like, for example, if I'm carrying a weapon right now and I'm purposely carrying it under my jacket, I am attempting to conceal it from sight so that way individuals would not know that I actually had it in my possession. If I'm carrying a concealed weapon in my vehicle, I'm putting it under my seat, or I'm putting it in an area where it's not visible to the naked eye, where I'm purposely trying to hinder anybody's idea that I even have that weapon in my possession. Now granted, my definition is probably not the best legal definition, but it's the most,
Right.
He said he
yeah,
gave
it's the most
you
common sense
common
definition.
sense.
That's right.
I'm just trying to hide it. I'm trying to keep it
Yeah.
away. I mean, Alabama for a long time was an open carry state. That's not a concealed weapon. Everybody knows you're carrying it. Concealed weapon is different. Concealed weapon is I'm trying to make sure people don't know I'm carrying it. And if you think about it, why do I want to do that? So a lot of times people who are up to committing crimes, what do? They conceal that weapon under their shirt before they go into a drugstore or before they go into a Quickie Mart to rob it. They conceal a weapon in their seat of their car because they're going to go do a drive-by. People who want to break the law are concealing weapons because they don't want people to know they're doing it.
Well, listen, thank you all. We'll move to the signing of the ordinance at this time. And after that, we will wrap everything up. I'll move that out of the way. Sorry about that. All right, you ready? All right, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Council, thank you so much. All right, we appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Cody, you holding on to this?